Picture this. You're buying your first home. You've saved up for years, found the perfect place, and now it's time to close the deal. But instead of endless paperwork and lawyers and weeks of waiting, it all happens instantly. No middlemen, no hidden fees, just a few clicks, and the keys are yours. It sounds crazy, I know, but here's the thing. It's not just hype, it's happening right now. In 2023, real estate tokenization was projected to grow into a multi-billion-dollar market by 2030. People are buying houses from the other side of the globe without even being physically there. At the same time, countries like the UAE and Sweden are experimenting with blockchain for property registries. The tech is here and it's starting to make waves. But adoption is still messy and the skeptics are loud. So is this really the future of buying homes? That's what I'm trying to find out. But first, we need to rewind. The story of blockchain and real estate didn't start with multi-billion-dollar predictions or government experiments. It started small, a niche idea, but it grew. A lot. Let me take you back to where it all began. But before we dive into this, there's a few key words we need to understand. Alright, so blockchain is a decentralized digital ledger where data is recorded in blocks and linked together securely. Decentralized just means that it's open for everyone to see. Think of it like a digital record book that we can all see, but no one can secretly change. Smart contracts are self-executing agreements, where the terms are coded into the blockchain and automatically happen when conditions are met. Or in other words, contracts that run themselves, like a vending machine delivering your snack once you put in the right amount of money. Tokenization is the process of dividing property ownership into smaller digital shares called tokens. It's like owning a fraction of a property, just like owning shares in a company. Okay, back to the story. It's the mid-2010s. Cryptocurrency is making headlines. Everyone's talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum. But quietly, in the background, another revolution is happening. And it's not about digital coins, it's about real estate. Here's the deal. Ethereum introduced something called smart contracts, and they just work. No lawyers, no notaries, no middlemen. You set the conditions, the deal is done. Now, fast forward to 2017, and this isn't just theory anymore. Here comes Propi, a blockchain-based real estate platform. They pull off a world first, selling an apartment in Ukraine, entirely powered by blockchain. This was the moment people realized, whoa, this tech isn't just about trading Bitcoin, it can actually change entire industries. And then, things got really interesting. Suddenly you have platforms offering something called tokenized real estate. So instead of buying an entire $2 million property, you buy a digital share of it. Meanwhile, governments are watching. Some are intrigued, others are skeptical, but places like Sweden and Dubai, they take the leap, experimenting with blockchain-powered property registries. These systems promise transparency and fewer errors and, get this, less fraud. And it works, and the more it works, the more people start to believe that maybe this really is the future of real estate. So here we are. Blockchain has officially stepped into the world of real estate. It's making waves and disrupting norms and turning heads. But you're probably wondering, okay, it's cool and all, but what's the big deal? Why should anyone care? That's the question, and the answer lies in the advantages. Because this is not just another dead hype. It's solving real problems. Let me show you how. First up, transparency. Ever bought a house or know someone who has? It's a mess of paperwork and lawyers and trust issues. Blockchain fixes that. Every single transaction gets recorded on a decentralized ledger. It's immutable, which is a fancy way of saying that no one can mess with it. Next, efficiency. Buying property can feel like it takes a lifetime. You've got contracts flying everywhere, and payments delayed, and middlemen taking their cut. But now, the whole thing is automated. Smart contracts handle the execution. Payments are instant. Then there's accessibility. Here's the thing. Traditional real estate has a high barrier to entry. Not everyone has hundreds of thousands or millions just lying around. But with tokenized real estate, you can own a slice of the pie for a fraction of the cost. It's like crowdfunding for property, except you're not just donating, you're investing. Security is another big one. Blockchain isn't just transparent, it's encrypted. This tech locks down sensitive info and makes it nearly impossible for hackers to tamper with transactions. And finally, global reach. Here's where it gets exciting. Blockchain doesn't care about borders. Whether you're buying an apartment in New York or a villa in Bali, you don't need a translator or a middleman or those painful currency conversion fees. You just do it. These are the reasons people are calling it a game changer. It's not just about tech, it's about making real estate faster and safer and more accessible to everyone. So far, it sounds great, right? Faster, safer, more accessible. But you just know there is a but coming. Like with any new thing, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Blockchain has its fair share of critics, and real estate is no easy industry to just change. So let's talk about the flip side, because to understand this, we've got to address the messy parts too. Okay, first up, regulation. This is a big one. Real estate laws are a patchwork. Every country, and sometimes even every state, has its own rules. And blockchain doesn't exactly fit neatly into those frameworks. So without clear legal guidelines, disputes can pop up, especially in cross-border deals. Imagine buying property in another country, only to find out the local laws don't even recognize blockchain transactions. Yeah, not great. Then there's adoption. Let's be real. Real estate isn't exactly known for being cutting edge. It's an industry built on tradition, handshakes and paper contracts and plenty of middlemen. So when you tell brokers or banks or lawyers, hey, blockchain can do your job faster and cheaper, they're not exactly jumping for joy. And what about technical barriers? Sure, blockchain is powerful, but it's not the most user-friendly thing out there. You need a digital wallet. You need to understand tokens. For some people, that's like asking them to learn a new language. And even if you do get the hang of it, there's still the issue of scalability. Current blockchain networks can get clogged up faster than your inbox on a Monday morning. But here's where it gets really tricky. Equity and ethics. Tokenized real estate sounds great on paper. It democratizes access, right? But there's a darker side. When homes are sliced up into tokens and treated purely as investments, it risks turning housing into just another stock market. And that could make the housing crisis worse, not better. Imagine homes being snapped up by investors, leaving everyday people priced out. So yeah, while blockchain has enormous potential, it's not without its flaws. The real estate industry is centuries old, and integrating this kind of tech, it's going to take time and negotiation and some tough conversations. But despite all that, progress is happening right now. And the numbers, they're starting to tell an interesting story. Let's dive into what the data says and where this whole thing might actually be headed. So the concept of blockchain technology, running real estate, is still in the early stages. There's lots of potential, but it's still a baby. It's still figuring out how to walk. Yet, momentum is building. A 2023 report by Deloitte predicts that real estate tokenization could explode into a multi-billion-dollar market by 2030. That's a signal that people are paying attention. Platforms like Propy, Realty, and Harbor are already making blockchain-based property transactions a reality. They're basically laying the groundwork for a new kind of market. Meanwhile, governments aren't sitting on the sidelines. Countries like the UAE and Sweden are actively experimenting with blockchain to keep property records transparent and secure. But here's the catch. Adoption is uneven. In developed markets, blockchain is mostly playing in the big leagues. Luxury properties and commercial real estate, think million-dollar condos and skyscrapers. But in developing regions, it's a whole different story. Here, blockchain is being tested as a tool to formalize land ownership, helping people prove that the land is actually theirs. Then there's public perception. And let's be real, this is where it gets complicated. Blockchain sounds cool and futuristic and full of potential. But the average home buyer? They're skeptical. They're not looking for cutting-edge tech. They're looking for trust. And right now, trust still lives in traditional systems, paper deeds and notaries and the old school ways of doing things. So what we're left with is a dual reality. On one hand, you've got momentum and innovation and huge possibilities. On the other, there's caution and resistance and a need to prove it's all worth it. So, here's where we're at. The trend is definitely growing, but unevenly. The luxury markets are dipping their toes in, governments are testing the waters, and the skeptics, well, they're still raising eyebrows. But let's take a step back. If this is where we are now, where is it all heading? What does blockchain in real estate actually look like, say, 10 years from now? Some experts are betting big. They say blockchain could become the standard tool for property transactions. So no more escrow services, no lawyers, no waiting around for someone to stamp a piece of paper. Instead, smart contracts handle it all. They're faster and cheaper and, frankly, a lot less stressful. And then there's tokenization. This could be the real game changer. Picture this. With a single click, you can own a piece of a beachfront villa in Bali, or a share of a skyscraper in Manhattan. With tokenization, real estate becomes a liquid, accessible asset class. Governments are likely to follow suit too. Land registries on the blockchain sounds boring, sure, but it's a big deal. Fraud gets harder, efficiency goes up, and for countries where property records are messy or even non-existent, this could be revolutionary. But here's the catch, not everyone's convinced. Some skeptics think blockchain won't live up to the hype. They see it as a supporting tool. Helpful, sure, but not transformative. They argue that regulations and slow adoption will keep blockchain from changing the industry. So, which one is it? Honestly, it's too early to call. What's clear is that the conversation is only just starting, and whether blockchain becomes the backbone of real estate depends on one thing: how well it solves the problems we've already talked about, if it can prove its value to investors and governments, and yes, even skeptical homebuyers. Then, maybe it will redefine how we buy, sell, and own property forever. But while everyone is speculating on the future of real estate, Bitcoin is going through a dramatic change. For the past 18 months, it behaved exactly like the S&P 500, and it's not supposed to do that. If anything, it's supposed to move in the opposite direction. If you want to find out more, watch this piece on correlation between the two. Thanks for watching, guys, and stay informed.